Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Fresh Set. I'm Sabrina,
And I'm Kevin.
and we are week 2 of no races. And
Boo.
boo. Last week we had an episode that wasn't on Spotify, and if you haven't watched it, it's on YouTube. It's hilarious. Don't mind our sound,
Don't mind the swearing.
visuals. But
Impromptu noises that are made.
yeah, by me. And you were hiccuping.
I did. I hiccuped. I was about to just start not freeze framing, but like zooming in every time we did something, which would have been horrible.
Yeah, it was a fun episode. A little bit of Formula One trivia while having extremely hot sauces. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out at Fresh Set Podcast on YouTube. But we're back on Spotify, on YouTube this week.
Yep.
And yeah, not much going on because we're on break.
Yeah, this week we're going to do a little bit of news, just because next week, what we're planning for next week needs a little bit more preparation, but we're going to do a little bit of a special episode again. It'll be on both platforms.
Yeah.
But, or audio and visual.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, this week we're just going to do a bit of news and go through what's been happening. Actually not really happening.
No.
Just been what everybody's talking about. Yeah. Everything's speculative.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's been a few things that have been thrown around, and it's more so, I don't know if they just can't announce anything because that would technically be their PR team working. Maybe.
Right. Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know if it's just the factories or
more
if it's the
speculations.
Yeah.
We're speculating the speculations.
Yeah, exactly. But there have been a few signings, a reported signings. So the first one, the thing that everybody was kind of, on the edge of their seat kind of, is Mercedes reportedly signing Kimi Antonelli for the 2025 season.
Yes.
As their second driver.
Yeah.
No details, obviously. It just seems like it's just 1 year. That's all it's being put out there right now is just 2025. Which actually adds to more speculation.
It really does. Because why have a rookie come in for 1 year? But maybe that makes sense, having a rookie on a 1 year.
They're obviously still trying to get Verstappen over, I think.
Yes.
I think Verstappen's guaranteed he's going to stay there for 2025. We already know Marco's staying there for 2025. Seems like they're going to try and just keep Horner and Jos Verstappen away from each other.
Yeah, for the next year and a half.
Yeah. So, which, I mean, does this create a different problem? Like, he's your junior driver. You're only signing for 2025. Is the expectation that maybe Sainz isn't going to be there in 2025? I mean, because reportedly, Sainz's contract, he has an exit that if a better, and Marco pretty much confirmed that this week. Yeah. That if a much more well-established team, so Mercedes, obviously not going to be Ferrari, but Mercedes, McLaren, Red Bull, it won't be McLaren either, but if one of those two want to sign them, he's got an exit, say, listen, I'm leaving. Yeah. I'll see you later.
Which is interesting because, and I know in the F1 community, they see all the contracts. They know what's in all the contracts. But it's weird that Helmut Marko of Red Bull is commenting on what he knows is in Carlos Sainz's contract.
Everybody knows. And I don't think Marko gives it.
No, he doesn't care.
I think it might be bitter that they're keeping Perez and they didn't sign Sainz.
Yes, sign Sainz.
And so just, you know what? I'm just going to throw everything out there and let the reporters have at it.
Yeah. Do you think that means that Red Bull was interested in Sainz?
Oh, I think so. I think 100% he was.
I think this confirms it.
100%.
Yeah.
I think there was no doubt that they wanted to put that there was some kind of um, some kind of a rift within the management there at
Yeah.
Red Bull. I
Yeah.
think Marco wanted Sainz to come back.
Yeah.
I think Horner would have preferred either Perez in there or Daniel to take over Perez's seat.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a world where or Horner wanted Sainz in there.
Well, I think the easy way to stop the rift between Daniel and Yuki fighting for that seat is just be like, "Well, it's going to neither of you. Here's Carlos Sainz
Well, yeah.
in that
Yeah.
seat." But we know Horner wants Daniel.
Horner wants Daniel in that seat.
Yeah.
Horner wants Daniel in that seat.
He's doing everything he can to, like,
Yeah.
prolong it.
And Marco wanted Sainz, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's why it took so long.
Yeah.
So then, going back, like, what happens if for whatever reason Verstappen leaves, Sainz is in a Williams potentially because he's potentially there for 2026.
Mhm.
And Verstappen goes to Mercedes. What does this leave you with? Does Mercedes spurn a young talented driver? I mean, for Verstappen, yes, of course you're going to.
Yeah.
But for how long is that going to last?
Or do
You
they
know
get
what I
rid
mean?
of
Like,
George?
ooh.
Or they get rid
Oh.
of George.
See, that didn't enter my mind. I
At
figured
all.
that. No, I thought George was, he's at Toto's house in the morning making him breakfast,
This is true.
just whispering sweet nothings in his ear. I thought that there was just a baby reindeer situation going on there. You're not getting rid of him. Yeah.
Not at all. Yeah, I mean, anything
Everything is possible.
is possible, and we're seeing that, this season.
Yeah. There's not going to be a silly season because everything's being done beforehand.
Everything's already kinda done.
We're going to have a quiet off season.
Yeah. Yeah, we really will. What else was Lando actually also commented on, uh,
On
the
that.
Carlos Sainz situation, insinuating he should have been in the Red Bull as well.
Well, I'm basically saying, why the hell would you sign for Williams?
Yeah.
You went from a Ferrari to a Williams.
From a McLaren to a Ferrari to a Williams.
Yeah, McLaren when he left though was
Right.
crap.
Yeah. So, interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot that we don't know, and just the amount of people that have been talking about Carlos Sainz and that Red Bull seat. Something was going on that he was not allowed to go into that seat.
Yeah. I did see a couple things where a couple people were, saying that, there's only been 4 drivers that have driven for they said 3 top, but I think they meant like 3 storied teams in F1, which was, I think Prost was one of them. But Williams, McLaren, and a Ferrari. And I'm like, does this really make headlines?
Yeah.
If Carlos Sainz is driving for a Williams now.
Yeah.
It's not like you were driving for Williams, Ferrari, and McLaren back in the 80s where they were all good.
Right. I mean, Williams is doing better than they have, but still not.
Yes, and they will have a Mercedes engine when you get into 2026.
Yeah.
It's sad that we're not going to talk about. I don't expect us to talk about Sainz next year.
No.
Really.
Very sad.
Other than, did he finish better than his teammate? Can he, in that car, finish better than his teammate?
Yeah. I mean, who becomes the number 1?
Well, I'm assuming they're paying Sainz a hell of a lot more than they're paying Albon.
True.
So, I mean, really, that's if my money's back
there,
in,
yeah. So, I mean, you also have the experience with Sainz being in some of these top cars. Okay, maybe they weren't winning, but he's got the experience of those where Albon was in a Red Bull. And
when they were okay.
Yeah, and couldn't handle it. So
that's more of a Max Verstappen effect than it is really a a Red Bull effect.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The other big signing, not so signing, maybe signing,
not yet signing.
We have 2 out of the 3 horses in the Newey race are gone. He is reportedly signed for a team.
Yeah.
And it is not red, and it's not
No.
orange.
No.
It is some weird greenish.
Teal? Is that teal?
It's a little darker than a teal, isn't it?
No. Aqua? Not aqua.
No.
It's a variation of blue-green.
Yes. Aston Martin.
Yeah.
As wasn't it the first reported? No, it was first reported by I forget his name now, from Top Gear. He had reported about this, if you'd remembered, it was about a month ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he looked a little bit sauced on the grid.
Yeah.
And then he came right out and said that Adrian Newey's been shopping in wherever close, near Silverstone there.
Yeah.
In Brackley or whatever it is. Are they in Brackley or is that Red Bull? Anyways, near Silverstone.
Yeah.
Which would insinuate Aston Martin.
Yes. And they weren't really, the top contender in the groups that were going after him. But we started to see those kind of falling off. And then all of a sudden there was all this Aston Martin.
Well, and you notice too, like when Ferrari starts appointing people ahead of Arrow or something, or like, it was reported more so that for Ferrari, I think it was going to be more of a consultant role instead of a full-on employee.
Yeah.
But once they started hiring people to replace these roles, it's kind of like,
that money's dwindling.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, the money he's reportedly getting in Aston Martin is astronomical. Yeah. I read it wrong the first time.
Yeah.
I thought it was 4 years at reportedly 100 million pounds, or is it euros? One of the two. It's ridiculous enough, regardless of which one it is. I thought it was, 25 million a year. No, apparently it's 100 million per years. I don't think 400 million makes sense, but there's been several places that have been saying 400 million.
$400 million.
$500 million for Newey, for a guy who wanted to kind of retire, wanted to slow down a bit.
That's a lot of pressure. If someone's paying you $500 million, that's a lot of pressure.
And is Arrow worth $100 million a year? I know it's important. I'm not discounting the Arrow. But you need both. Yeah. You need both. You need an engine, you need a power unit, and you need the Arrow.
Yeah. What engine are they getting?
They are going with Honda.
Okay.
So that leads into more speculation.
Yeah.
So the talk around was that, he'd seen, because they just built a brand new facility right next to Silverstone.
Yes.
Basically, I could walk there. They have a brand new wind tunnel. He's put millions and millions of dollars, maybe more, maybe not a billion, I don't think, but a ton of money into these new facilities, hiring all kinds of people, taking people from McLaren, taking people from Ferrari, taking people from Mercedes, probably Red Bull. And they're getting Honda as well, which Adrian Newey does like working with Honda.
Loves a Honda engine and does well with them, apparently.
Exactly.
So
I don't know. I don't necessarily believe the $100 million a year. I would think it would be more for $100 million for the 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that just makes more sense. You can $400 million for 4 years doesn't sound right. Now, I don't know.
I mean,
Lawrence Stroll might be that crazy.
He's got money.
I don't
think of the money. I don't know.
It sounds absolutely. He's got the money. He's got the money.
Okay. Well,
that's probably his salary.
Yeah, he's like, I won't take the salary for.
Yeah, for 1 year. It's fine. It's no problem. Everything else is already paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then that fuels the other rumor.
Yes.
The other rumor. Newey comes over. Obviously, Verstappen likes having a Newey designed car.
Yeah.
Works really well. He likes being with a Honda engine.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's going to
change for him as well
in the next year and a half.
Yeah.
Who knows? Does this open up a spot for him in 2025 or 2026?
And with that rumor actually came the potential lineup.
Yep.
Which shockingly, not so shockingly.
I would say shockingly, but I could see it happening. I could see the conversation between father and son.
Yeah. Like, you know what, son? You gotta go.
Yeah. So it would depend on when, I guess, if if
and
Max
when.
were coming,
Yeah.
but when it would happen if he was coming. So
Yeah.
if it happened in 2026, we know that Alonso's signed to 2026, and then he's potentially moving into a different role,
Yeah.
which would make sense for a man in his 40s.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but if it happened in 2025, there's the sense that, yeah, you know what, we're going to keep Alonso for this year, and we're just going to move Stroll into a different car in the WEC Championship in the world. So they're well, I completely forgot what the E stands for in WEC.
Electric?
No, endurance. Excuse me, endurance championship. That's the 24-hour Le Mans and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, it's electric.
Electric.
No, the endurance championship. Basically WEC. So those long races, team
Yeah.
races, blah blah. Yeah, which was surprising.
Yeah, I
Now,
mean, to be honest, I think the Verstappen-Alonso, pairing makes more sense on track. If you want two dominant
that
bullies.
scares me. That
Yes,
scares
with
me.
two
That scares me
dominant
for them as
bullies.
teammates. I know
Yeah.
they're friends,
Yeah.
but that would be the end of their friendship.
It would be the end of their friendship, and I think it would be the end of every other car on track.
100%. This would turn into
Yeah.
Monster Jam.
Yeah. If they're starting behind you, just move. Just move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't challenge somebody
No.
into a corner. It's
No.
not going to happen.
No.
You know, don't kind of get close to the back of their vehicle. They're going to brake check you. It's just
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah. And I think it would be hard, father and son, when you have somebody like Max in the other seat. He becomes your number one. I mean, right now you can kind of
Oh.
argue Alonso, okay.
No, you put Max Verstappen in a car and with either of those, put the three of them and just test it out and see who comes out on top. Max
Yeah.
comes out on top every time.
Yeah.
And Stroll is way in the back every
Oh.
time.
He's being lapped by both of them.
And then, but that makes it easier for Lawrence. He's just going to be like,
Yeah.
hold up the paper, like, look, sorry, bud. You're done. Go to your room.
Go to your house.
Go
to
to
your
your
wing.
mansion. Go to your mansion. Yeah.
Go to your wing of the house. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting if that does happen.
It was an interesting take that I hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
Which makes more sense than him going to, unless Mercedes makes leaps and bounds in the next year and a half.
Yeah.
It made more sense for him to go to Aston Martin if he was leaving Red Bull than it would to Mercedes. But at Mercedes' trajectory, you know.
Do you see Mercedes going back to winning championship after championship, even if they figure it out?
Do not see them being as dominant.
Like the Lewis era. No, I don't. I don't see that.
See them being as dominant. It could
for a while.
When we get to 2026, who knows?
Fair.
It could be. We had the regulation change. You know, Max won in 2021. We had a slight regulation change in 2022, and they've been dominant for the last 2.5 years. It's possible, but you see them kind of catching up a lot quicker. So
I think we're entering a McLaren era. Possibly.
I don't.
Possibly.
See, I'm hesitant to call it an era at the moment until we see how everybody interprets 2026.
Fair.
I think you're gonna throw everything into a blender there. I think you could have a Haas win. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But you could
You could.
race one of the season.
Yeah. Can you imagine
if Haas won
or
Miami?
Audi just comes out of nowhere and just
that would be amazing. I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it just to see the look on Toto's face.
Yeah. I would go buy a Hulkenberg jersey. Sure.
Oh yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just it's going to be him. Well, depending on who his teammate would be. But
oh yeah, I hope it's not. Well, I mean, if Haas wins, I hope it's not Ocon. It better be Behrman. But he might not be in the team. He might be in F1. We keep saying that all the time, but he's still just he's like a cockroach. He keeps coming back.
He's just there. Always.
Cucaracha. This.
Oh God. Next piece of news for us.
a couple of, I guess, investigations and not so many investigations. So first thing we have is the appeal for the complainant in the Christian, which this all just went away. Nobody talked about it ever again. And it took them, how long has it been now? 4 months to come to a decision?
It started
on the appeal?
just before the season started because it was all through preseason.
Yes, but they came down with a decision
pretty
on
quickly.
Horner's side. Was it Horner's side on, is it April?
A couple races in, yeah.
Yeah, so like April-ish, March, April?
Yeah.
So we're about 4 or 5 months in now.
Yeah.
And it took that long for them to say, you know what, the appeal or the complainant has on Horner. Red Bull said, you know, that's it. It's done. We're upholding our decision. There is no appeal.
Yeah.
We're throwing it out. Go find another job.
Yeah.
Which did they fire? No, she left.
She left.
Yeah, I guess you can't technically fire somebody for making a complaint.
Yeah. Technically.
So yeah, that was that.
Yeah.
I hope we don't hear any more from it because
no,
not that I'd forgotten about it, but it was nice not to have this in the news anymore.
Yeah.
It was over. It was done with.
Yeah.
Whatever came out of it came out with it. They dealt with it internally. It didn't have to go too far.
Yeah, and I mean the one thing that has changed a little bit though, and this could also be that Red Bull's dominance hasn't been Red Bull's dominance over the last 7 races or so, is we haven't seen his wife. We haven't seen Jerry Halliwell at the races where, you know, last season she was
a lot of him.
Well, exactly. That too. Even when they win.
Yeah, there's not a lot. I mean, yeah, she's been at maybe 1, 2 races.
She was at the race right after everything came out, and but
and then one recently, I believe.
I think Silverstone.
Was it just Silverstone?
I think it was Silverstone. But yeah, I think it really messed up Red Bull starting off the season, and everything that follows with that.
It set off everything here. I think it set off all the Newey stuff. It set off all the Just Verstappen stuff.
Yeah.
It was all just a little kids club, and everybody was slinging mud, and took the focus right out of until everybody else caught up, took all the focus out of the race.
Yeah, and it was something for the other teams to just like dig a little bit further into Red Bull. So but yeah, I mean, glad it's kind of done and put to bed. So no more of that, unless.
And hopefully there won't be anything else. Like hopefully she doesn't go to like some higher court or some whatever, if she can.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she shouldn't. If she believes she should.
Yeah.
I just don't want to hear about it anymore. Leave it in between the individuals, and we'll be done.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing is that the U.S. Department of Justice has filed a antitrust investigation into the reason why Andretti was denied a team in F1.
Yeah.
You want to start?
Why? I don't know why the Department of Justice. Like, don't you guys have other things to worry about right now?
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe law reform. Like, you know, like.
I mean, there's a million things you could be working on than what's happening in Formula One sport. Just, it doesn't make sense.
Who does Andretti know in the U.S. Department of Justice?
Yeah.
Or who is he giving kickbacks to, or whoever, that Liberty Media and the F1 have whatever reason. They if they don't want an 11th team, they don't have to have an 11th team.
No.
It's not like it says like, oh, well, if they meet all the requirements, you can put a team. No. They can still say no. We just want 10 teams. We like our format. Yeah. That's all they really have to say in an email. Say, we like our format. And thank you for your consideration.
And I mean, there is another American team. Like, Haas is there. Gene Haas is in the U.S. permanently because he can't leave the country. But, like, I don't know what the argument is here.
They have 3 races. They have Miami, which, okay, maybe they don't like the race, but they like Miami. They have Coda, which every driver seems to really love that track, which is a fantastic track. And then you have Vegas, which made them so much money.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere.
Yeah. they're thinking about another US race.
Yeah,
Like,
so what do you like, who cares?
yeah, I
Like,
don't know what the okay, and, we know Andretti is an indie. Um, they have a lot of money in indie. Also, do you wanna be the team that when you get there, if you ever get there, that nobody wants there? Like,
I think this comes down to Andretti. I mean, when I heard that they built a facility in England
yeah,
in anticipation, like you spent $1 billion or however much money you spent
yeah,
to build this thing. Like, yeah, we're gonna go in F1. This is how serious we're gonna. No, how about you say this is our intention?
yeah,
Let's get there in 2 years
yeah.
or 3 years or whatever. Now I think he's just pissed off. He's like, we spent all this
The
money.
money.
Well, sorry, bud. You're an
Yeah,
idiot.
yeah,
You're a complete idiot.
yeah. Didn't make sense at all.
I'm sure F1 didn't say, well, listen, once you have some facilities here,
Yeah.
then we'll let you in. No, they
Well,
guarantee they never said
no.
that. We'll talk about it over some tea.
Yeah,
No, you
not
idiots.
not happening. I don't
That
know.
is typical just bravado, like this, I'm going to force my way in. There's no way they're gonna be able to stop me.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
they did.
Yeah, they did.
They
They did.
stopped you, and again, how did you get the Department of Justice? And I don't know, I haven't read the articles, the appeal, like, haven't read all of it to see what the basis is.
But why would they get involved?
Right. It just doesn't make sense.
Like, wouldn't you, as Andretti Racing, hire your own private law firm, whatever, your counsel
Yeah.
to file this investigation? What does the U.S. Department of Justice, literally taxpayer dollars, are going to find out why this guy can't put 8 wheels on a track?
Yeah, really. I I don't know.
It
Doesn't
is
make
the
sense.
biggest waste of money.
If I was a US taxpayer, I would be pissed.
If I'm
But
F1 and Liberty Media, I am dragging this out
yeah,
for as long as possible.
spend all the money you can.
Not because I'm scared they're going to find something.
Yeah.
I just want to piss you off.
Yeah.
Now, at this point now, you're just an annoying little shit
Yeah.
that's keeps knocking at my door.
Yeah.
You know, you're basically like those Jehovah's that keep coming at the door there, and I don't want to
Yeah.
talk to you.
Yeah.
Just I'm getting rid of you.
Yeah. Well,
And
like
I'm gonna make it hell for you.
well, and it's not even just F1 and Liberty Media. The drivers have said, "We don't need an 11th team. We don't
No.
need more." So it's not even like the drivers are like, "Yeah, we could use more people on track." Like,
The Department of Justice is a US based
there goes your
organization. They have no jurisdiction
yeah.
to a company that operates in England.
Yeah. Simple as that. Simple as that.
They can do whatever the F they want.
Yeah.
And if you're really that pissed off about it, don't let them come back to the States, which you won't because they make you too much money.
Right. It's all
So,
I don't know.
oh,
It's what happens when you have too much money to just throw around and just get mad at people. I want that problem. I mean, I
Yeah,
won't
but
do
see,
it, but I want I want to have the ability to have that problem.
okay, but they have too much money. They've spent all that money. Now they're sour.
Yeah.
Lawrence Stroll has all that money. And he says, you know what? You're going to deny me. I'm just going to buy it anyways. And
Yeah.
I'll pay for it. I'll
Yeah.
pay for whatever it is.
Exactly.
I'll
It's
spend whatever
exactly
money.
what's gonna happen.
Andretti's just pissed off that they've spent all this money and they don't want to spend any more money.
Yeah.
They're cheap rich people.
Yeah. Well, that's how you stay rich. Well, not for them, but it's how you stay
No,
rich.
savings never worked for me. Um, so speaking of, we'll get into that one last. Speaking of races and races around the world, and you mentioned it, they're looking at another race in potentially Chicago. I know they trademarked a bunch of things.
Yeah.
I think it was just more preemptive than it was kind of like, hey, just in case.
Yeah.
But there's more reports of F1 wanting to come to Africa.
Yeah.
Which they had in South African GP before.
Mhm.
They may have had somewhere else. Could be mistaken. I don't know if it was Egypt. Maybe not.
Can't remember.
I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like
Yeah.
they did have somewhere else. But they did have a South African, but now they're looking at, and the reports were Rwanda.
Yeah.
Early reports, Stefano Domenicali has also said they would love to have a race in Africa.
Yeah.
If it works out, obviously.
Yes.
If there's money to be made. And if it makes sense for the calendar.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it means they're going to go to 25th and 26th race season, which they've kind of kicked the can on a little bit. Or just they've put it out there. I think they put it out there just to see what the response is going to be. And like, hey, just in case, don't act like we didn't tell you.
Well, and I think the drivers have already kind of said, like, this is a lot. You're asking us to drive a lot. It's very taxing on the body, all that. So would they go to 25, 26? I
think they would.
You think they would?
I think they would. I think they're going to work it like here in Canada, they work our gas prices. So they're going to go, they're at 24 now. They did what, 20? They were supposed to be 24 last year. They did 23. This year, they're 24. I think they're going to do the same thing. I think they're going to go like, oh, we're going to do a 26 race season or 27 race season. And then, so like here for our gas prices, they'll say we're going to raise it up to $1.80 or whatever it is. And then a week later, they drop it down to $1.75, even though it's 10 cents more than it was 2 weeks before that.
Exactly.
And then you're like, oh, I got to get gas today. It's cheap. And well, it's not. No, they just got you used to getting gouged and effed in the butt.
Yeah.
But so I think that's what they're gonna do. I think they're gonna try. Oh, we'll try 26. Then maybe we'll drop it to 25.
Right.
And then just little
that makes
shit
sense.
Tactics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very upset about gas prices.
Apparently. I just don't. Okay, so let's say they aren't going to do that. Let's say they're dropping a race from the calendar to add Rwanda.
I don't think they would do that.
Which race?
But okay, let's just say.
Which race are you dropping?
Which race am I dropping? So they've already talked, and they actually talked about it this week as well. They're not in the interest of having doing things just for nostalgia purposes.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting rid of Monaco.
They're not getting
rid of Monaco, which would be the easiest one to get rid of.
Yeah.
But it brings them too much money.
Yeah.
And too much status and eyes and viewership.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just looking at the calendar now. The easy one would be, but they signed Miami for another 9 years, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. And they just built that whole track. They're not getting rid of something that they just
probably
built
not.
out.
Do they get rid of? See, I don't believe they get rid of anything in the Middle Eastern countries, because those also bring in a lot of money too. Singapore, everybody likes. They get rid of Mexico. I know Mexico's. No, Mexico. Oh, this is tough.
I was thinking that. I'm
tough.
like, which one do you get rid of?
I would say for me, it would be something. No, because we know they're going to Madrid now instead of Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to get rid of Austria because that's Red Bull.
I
think the easy one for me is either China or Hungary.
Interesting. I was thinking they get rid of one of the Italian ones.
Never. It would make the most sense because I think, is it Imola? I don't even think they get a lot of fans out because there's just nowhere to put them.
Yeah.
Like you're in between houses and farms.
Yeah.
So for fan wise, you're probably right.
I think it's one of the Italian ones.
I don't think they would.
They wouldn't.
They wouldn't. Especially something like Imola. Imola definitely wouldn't. That's been there for, well, I guess then it goes back to the nostalgia thing.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard when you think about it. When you think about it, which one do they get rid of?
For me, would probably be Hungary or China.
Yeah.
Probably China first. Hungary gets a lot of people. I think they had almost like 400,000 people over the weekend.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, 380.
Sells
something
a
like
lot of tickets. Yeah. So I'd probably go with China.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be one of the Italian ones, but again, which one? Then you narrow it down. Like you have Imola or
Which group
Monza.
of Italians are you gonna piss off?
Exactly. So, but yeah. So
Okay.
Rwanda is the prospective
Yeah.
or proposed
African GP location.
speculation. Yeah.
Which they have had a race in Rwanda before.
Yes.
I did see. I don't know how many, but they did. They have raced there before.
Yeah.
And then you had said something about India today to me.
Yes, I did see
Today, like 20 minutes ago.
a post of a request for a race in India. It's the tweet was a race needs to be in a place where, a large part of the world lives.
Well, sure, and you got a
Big
billion people.
population. Yeah.
Yeah, easy
So,
enough.
um,
Which then they're never getting rid of China.
no. And
No.
I mean, I think China has been off the the races for a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
It's finally back. I don't know. It's interesting to think about where all these races could go, or could be taken away from.
Like Russia. Yeah.
It's like Russia.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and you'll see that you would see that with China too. Like if they had some kind of political turmoil
yeah,
or in a Middle Eastern country or something
yeah,
like that, they'll obviously take
they're
them out
gonna
of it.
pull
Yeah,
races.
just like they did with Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that. And then the last bit of news we had there, we have some new rule changes mid-season.
Yes.
Mid-season.
So this is starting in 2 weeks.
Yeah. As soon as they get to Netherlands, rules are in effect. Which are they allowed to look at the rule changes this? No, they have to wait till next week. So I'm sure they're looking at it, but they can't discuss them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because usually you get rule changes before a season starts.
Yeah.
Or they're going to put them out now and say this is going to be effective in 2025 or whatever. They're really not happy with teams starting to screw around. So the first rule change has to do with the braking system. It's an asymmetrical braking system. Power is distributed evenly. And I guess some teams have started to exploit that. So now they're taking that away.
Yes.
Which means that some teams may be able to catch up, or you're going to see a little bit closer action between certain groups of teams. How it all works, I'm not exactly sure.
Which is crazy because it's already getting so close. Like, how much closer do you want these cars to get? But
that's it's
racing.
I guess they're not happy with the fact that it's getting closer now with just engine upgrades and aero. They have to screw out their braking too.
Yeah.
But then the other one, the big one, is the exploitation of time penalties. So now, if you have a time penalty, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it is, or if you're Ocon, you got 30 seconds accumulated. What they used to do is you come in, you serve your penalty, and then as soon as that you serve your penalty, you go around another lap, and then you retire the car because you're so far back, you're not going to make it, whatever.
Yes.
Now, if you do that, whether you don't serve it or if you do that and you haven't completed 90% of the race, that time penalty will be tacked on to the next race. Yeah. Which I don't mind because we saw that a bunch in the last year and then in the last couple of years with Red Bull.
Yeah.
Perez had something. I remember he had that and he came to a pit stop, served his 10-second penalty plus his pit stop. So it was at like 12 and a half seconds or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Went around one more lap and said, retire them.
Yeah.
And it was on lap like 30 of whatever.
Yeah.
Not doing that anymore.
No.
I mean, they may wait till they get to that 90%.
Yeah. And I think it'll also depend on the time penalty, right? So if it's a 5 second and we're going into a race, the following race where it's a good race for the team, you're probably not going to want to do that.
No.
But when we have 20 second, 10 second.
Yeah, when you get into those bigger time penalties and you're on the cusp of making points.
Yeah.
And you're going to finish your projections. You're going to finish 12th, 13th, or 17th or 18th now that everybody's getting closer.
Yeah.
And there's no point in racing or, saving your engine basically.
Yeah.
That's no more.
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
When I first saw it, when you sent it to me, I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this. But because I feel like 90% of the race, that's a lot of the race. But
well, sure. Yeah. You're going, when you have a 50 lap race, you're at 45 laps.
Yeah.
Right? So,
So
you have to finish 45 laps. You get to the 70 mark and you've got to finish, I don't know, 68 or something like that. No, not if you've got like 70, probably about 60 to 58, something like that.
Yeah. It's still a lot of laps that you have to, or a lot of time you got to put in to.
Especially if you've got that time penalty
Yeah.
at, lap 30.
Yeah. Like,
So it's
it's
a lot of laps to go.
really, like,
Yeah.
really a mess with people, and I think, it's gonna be interesting to see the first few races where it actually comes into play when you have a late penalty.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, when the next race, is going to be, it's a good track for our car.
Yeah.
What's the decision that the team makes?
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's interesting, and I like this move. It's one of the only moves I've liked from the FIA lately. But because they're taking, like, we've talked about this throughout the season. They've imposed these penalties, and I know they have to because it's in the rule book and you show it, whatever. But they're useless penalties.
Yeah.
Like, you give Zhao a 3 grid place penalty, and he qualified in 20th. Like, what's the point? It makes no sense. You give Yuki Tsunoda, well, he got a 60 grid place penalty. No. Okay, he changed like 16 pieces in his car. You could just say he will be starting in 20th. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And I get it's all just to regulations, documentation, blah, blah,
Yeah.
whatever. This is a rule change that, like, okay, fine. Now you're not going to exploit this anymore, right? You're not going to make our penalty that we're imposing on you virtually a useless penalty.
Yeah. This one actually has use.
Some consequence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think we'll see. And then I guess it's going to, I wonder how they're going to set it up. So it goes from one race to the other. And then I guess you just have to serve it out at some point.
You serve it at some point during pit stop.
During the pit stop.
So your next pit stop, and then, which would be, no, we did have a one pit stop last year. We haven't had a no pit stop thing. No. I remember last year, was it Albon?
I think it was Ocon, actually, that took a penalty.
No, I'm just saying the one pit stop, but he took it early and finished on a one stop. And his tires are basically done.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah,
actually.
Albon.
That was Albon. Yeah. And it's possible. We saw it this year last race. We saw it Spa with Leclerc and
George.
Leclerc did a one stopper and George did a one stopper. Yeah. And he was underweight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was not the greatest one to do a one stopper.
Poor George.
which Leclerc didn't have a time penalty. Or sorry, a weight penalty.
Yeah.
Unless they weighed his car. Do they weigh all cars or do they only weigh the top 3?
I think everybody do
they all get weighed?
That's a good point.
Or is it only everybody in the points? Well, he was in the points anyways.
I mean, he ended up getting 3rd. So I would assume they ended up weighing his car.
Oh, yeah. That's right. He did move up into 3rd, yeah. Yeah, so he was, yeah. So that's interesting. That's something we didn't think about.
Back to the conspiracy.
Or I didn't think about. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see the next few races when we start to see these time penalties, just how the strategy of what the teams take. What are people going to do? And I think there's also going to be a difference with the, 4 teams up front and the 4 teams at the back as well.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to see different strategy of what makes the most sense. So
we're going to have some interesting races where I could see some penalties. I mean, Singapore is a tight race. Azerbaijan's a tight race.
Yeah.
Kota's a tight race.
And when the races are so tight, Singapore, lots of coming together and penalties, it's possible that 2 drivers that came together have a penalty. So
absolutely.
You are now having to see what the other team is doing. And does it make sense for us to do the time penalty now or wait till the next race? So
I guess it also depends on how you fare in the next race.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. Yeah.
That's why when I first saw it, I was like, I don't like this. But now that taking time, it's just, I do like it. I do think the 90% of the race is a lot, but
yeah.
I would even go like 75%.
No, because if it happens again, because then you get into that area, you know, on a 50 lap race, you get to what's 75% of 50? Oh, geez, that is
Don't ask me.
like 30, 38 laps, something like that. 37, 38. There's a lot of time to make up, right? If your time penalty is going to drop you down to 11th or 12th, not that saying that you shouldn't, you know,
Yeah.
it shouldn't matter where you place it. But I don't think it's enough. Like if you're going to be out and you're going to last, you know, you take that time penalty at lap 32 and you just got to make it to 36, make a couple more times around, or 37 or whatever it is, right? It's still kind of inconsequential.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
Although, like you said, interesting if they take that time penalty at 89% of that race, you know,
Yeah.
and they've only got 11 laps. So either do you take that pit stop then, where you still might have a chance. I guess it really would depend on where you're placed and what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. And how you think you fare or your car fares.
Yeah.
In certain tracks.
Yeah. And I mean, with the top teams getting closer, if I'm one of those top, like if I'm Max sitting in first place and I get a time penalty, we'll do it on the next one.
Sure. We'll do it on the next one. And I'll try to build a 30-second gap the next race.
Like you automatically get pole, build the gap, do your 10-second penalty.
Oh yeah. I don't think there's a world where you take that time penalty when you're in, you know,
the top
podium
5
spot or top 5. Absolutely not.
Like
no.
Even top 10.
Even top 10. I wouldn't. If I'm in a points position, I'm not taking it. I'll take my chances on the next one.
Yeah. There's no way, and especially somebody in like top 3, you're not doing it. That middle group probably could, again, depending on times.
Yeah.
But then you get to like 8, 9, 10 when you're fighting for just something, they're not doing it either. Because then you're just giving away for like points.
And you never know. Like I'd rather take my chances getting those points then, and then the next race it's raining. Maybe you have a couple cars that take themselves out, and that time penalty kind of negates itself, or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
We shall see. Again, speculation. That's not speculation. That is fact.
Coming into Everything else we're just all our fantasy. That's all speculation. Yeah. Their own speculation.
Yeah.
But that's basically all we had for news this week.
Yeah.
Which when we said there wasn't really much, there was quite a bit. At least that we could talk about.
A lot to talk about, yeah.
Yeah.
Within it.
But that's it. Otherwise, we will be back next week with another thing, something a little special, but all very F1
related
centric. I mean, last week was F1 centric as well. It was more fun-ish. But yeah.
Fun adjacent.
Fun adjacent. Well, the hot sauce wasn't fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so catch us on all our platforms. That's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, at Fresh Said Podcast, on Instagram, X, TikTok. I think that's the socials. That's all of them. I think I got all of them because I kind of split it up. And I confused myself.
Okay.
But on all those platforms, like, share, subscribe, comment, drop a hello, whatever you want. Share with your friends, and play it loud for your enemies. So,
and
that's it.
All done. And we will see you guys next week.
Yep. Grab a fresh set.
Bye.